Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Hey, we're really excited this morning to have Katie B. Marshall and Leila Shaw with us. They are the head of a firm called Marshall and Shaw, co-founders, and it's really been a neat thing to watch their business grow and develop over the last couple of years. So I'm going to let them tell their stories, but really what they have for us are just some really good, like a top 10 financial things that we think will make you a little more successful. So we're excited to have you on today. Thanks for being on. So I don't know who wants to start.
Yeah, well, I'll kick it off. Thanks, Lauren and Emily, and thanks to everybody all the Wealth Edit members who are joining us on this rainy morning in Birmingham. I am Katie B. Marshall, and a little quick background on me. I actually grew up here in Birmingham. I left for a period of time. I graduated from Princeton, stayed in the Northeast. I worked in New York City before finding my way back here. All of that time I spent in the investment world, eventually running a family office here. So really deep in the investment side of things, sort of the longer term financial planning versus what we do here, which is more focused on the day-to-day, which we'll get into. And this is my business partner, Leila Shaw.
Yeah, so I'm Leila Shaw, and I did not grow up here in Birmingham. I grew up in Greenwich, Connecticut, and found my way to Birmingham about 17 years ago. And I'll sort of get a little bit more into that in a bit, but I really thought it was important to start with giving you guys some information about what we do here at Marshall and Shaw so you can better understand our business. So we provide personal bookkeeping services for high net worth family and individuals. And really what that means is at the base, not only do we pay all of our clients' bills, take care of all of their household payroll, we also download all of their personal financial data. So that being all of their credit card transactions, everything from their checking accounts, what have you. And we take all of that data and we transform it into really useful, robust reports that they can then use with their other advisors to make really sound decisions about their future planning. And additionally, it really helps these households get a better idea of their cash flow needs, things that they have never really been able to get a handle on and see the full picture before.
Yeah, so our clients are all really different. As you can imagine, not one really looks the same, not one really has needs that overlap, but what they do have in common is a lot of complexity in their lives and just a need for someone to take over this sort of day-to-day work. And so, you know, they are many times, they own multiple homes. They are frequent travelers. They are running their own business. They have, you know, family obligations. They have a need for privacy. You know, a lot of different reasons bring them to our business. You know, we do think our business is pretty different in terms of what else is out there. As Leila said, we only do the personal side, so we're not doing the business side. But these clients, you know, are really coming to us because, you know, they have these diverse needs, but the person that may be doing it right now, let's say it's a spouse or an assistant at work, for whatever reason, they don't want to do it anymore, which makes it really easy for us to take over because nobody's sad that we are coming into the picture and we're not really replacing anybody who doesn't want to be replaced. And so we really become just a complement to our clients' other advisors. You know, we're helping them work with their investment advisors or their attorneys or their estate planning attorneys or their accountants. And, you know, we're really just coming in as sort of another piece of that advisory group that can really help them out.
Yeah, so that's really a brief sort of overview of like all of the little parts that we provide for our clients. But I think now we need to really back up and give you a history of how we got here. Like I said, I did not grow up here. I grew up in Greenwich, Connecticut. And many years ago, my mom started a very similar business out of our hometown or in our hometown. And I worked for her and I absolutely loved it. She was providing these bookkeeping services. And that was great and really appealed to my sort of type A personality. But it was also about the relationship she had with her clients. I thought that was really, really neat part of the business. And so when I came to Mountain Brook and sort of told KDB, hey, you know, this is what I'm thinking, we really started Marshall and Shaw by taking her playbook and copying it.
I mean, down to like the pens we use.
Yeah, we had the same folders, the same labels, and really she was a fabulous mentor for us to get started. And we found a lot of success in that model. One, because we were sort of building it off of her, 30 something years in the business and all of the things that she had already learned along the way. But also, as KDB was saying, there aren't a lot of firms offering just personal bookkeeping. You can find business bookkeepers, sometimes small business bookkeepers that will offer personal bookkeeping as like an ancillary service, but no one that's really dedicated to say, hey, I don't do any business. I'm just looking at what's going on in your family and what your family's, household cash flow needs are.
Or even some advisors might offer this as sort of a, hey, come in the door and we're going to give this to you as part of our services. But then, they overpromise and underdeliver once, the rubber hits the road, and they're not capable really of providing this type of service.
Right. Nor are they really getting paid to do the work. And so it doesn't really appeal to them to do it in the professional way that we do it. So that was great. We recreated her business. We slapped our names on it and we thought, we've got this great thing going. But about a year in, we sort of saw that we had this opportunity to take the idea of a traditional bookkeeper and elevate it. So what that meant to us was that when we thought of a bookkeeper, and maybe like many of you do, a bookkeeper is maybe somebody that, I don't know, I hate to even say, but like a little old lady that sits in her garage and like types on her calculator and handwrites checks. Yeah. And that works in terms of, getting the bills paid. But in terms of getting a comprehensive look at all of the spending, there was a missing piece. And what we saw was that these families didn't feel comfortable sort of revealing everything to these bookkeepers. There was a gap because it's a little bit uncomfortable sometimes to discuss private air travel and art collections and club memberships. And so we saw this sort of need and we thought, hey, why don't we take the bookkeeping role and bring it to the next level? Our education and our backgrounds and our experience allowed us then to sort of interact with our clients on a more personal level. And so they felt comfortable saying, hey, listen, like I want to get a new, Wheels Up account. How do you feel about this? Or what did I pay, for my capital improvements on my, my third home last year? And I think the friendships and the relationships that we've created with our clients has really changed the way that families have interacted with their bookkeepers. We really have changed the role and no longer want people to consider bookkeepers as, just somebody with a handheld calculator, and a roll of calculator tape in their garage. We've really taken this to a professional level for our clients.
Yeah. In the way.
No, I was just going to say, I think y'all touched on a point that I think is so important because like talking about money with your clients is so personal. And I mean, we see that here in our practice and, it's such an honor when people allow you into that part of their lives. And especially when it gets to spending, like how much, because so many of the decisions that Lauren and I make with our clients, most of them like hinge on, well, how much do you spend every year? Because, they can have 30 million, but if they spend $2 million a year, then, we have a problem. And so, we see that too, that it's hard to like dig in as deeply as we need to, and to have somebody like you on the other side that's really maintaining it, not just like, let me just do a quick look through the last couple of months of my Amex and see. It's more of like, we're really doing a deep dive into that. So
And I think too, because like people kind of devalue, and it doesn't matter how much money you have, people devalue day-to-day spending. And so it makes sense that people that are asking someone else to do it, they might not think, oh, this person needs to be a highly qualified person with really good credentials and a great academic background, like because they devalue it. Then I can see how this happens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I mean, really, you tell me, but I'm sure you've never had a client come in and overestimate what they're spending. Yeah. A client says, oh, I'm spending $1 million a year. Well, the reality is they're probably spending far beyond that. Yeah. And that's just the inability to sort of see the big picture because they're so in the weeds of just trying to keep the lights on at their house or what have you.
And Emily, you really touched on it too. We had a client once that as we were doing what we call our onboarding process, right? We were really digging into, okay, where are your accounts? What credit cards do you have? I mean, she looked at us and said, I feel like I am naked in front of you.
Mhm.
And, we try though to bring that sort of, comfortable, conversational tone to the conversation, because it really shouldn't feel that way. You should be, you should be open to discussing that with people who you trust and who are professionals in this space. And so we really do build that rapport with our clients, and that's our high touch model. It's built around this idea that for us to be successful and for us to be the best at what we do, we really need to have this close relationship so that, we can identify spending habits that might be different than what is normal and maybe even fraudulent. We catch things all the time for our clients, whether it's a double charge for $5 or something much, much larger. But it comes back to that relationship, and we just have to build that over time. But, like I said earlier, we do that by becoming just part of their circle. We become part of that advisory group that they then trust us to hand over, their information and to let us monitor it. And it gives them more control.
Right.
I think sometimes you feel like, okay, I'm giving all this information and it feels like I've now lost control. Well, no, we give our clients these tools that give them so much more insight into what's going on in their personal, the day-to-day, which nobody is watching. Everybody else is watching the long term. Your investment advisor is watching the long term. Your estate planner is watching the long term. Your accountant's watching once a year or once a quarter, perhaps. There's no eyes on the day-to-day, and that's us. And so that control is something that really builds that level of trust too with our clients. And we think that works, to our advantage. It's just all part of the relationship model that we're really focused on.
Yeah. And I think too, right, as we said, money can be uncomfortable to talk about, and, every family is different. And often people are not taught to be good stewards of their wealth. And, I think that gets really tricky. And I think if you're brought up in a household where money isn't sort of openly discussed and you haven't been taught how to make a plan and how to keep an eye on it, you often feel uncomfortable asking questions. And we've certainly come across that with our clients who have felt just for no reason, intimidated to say, hey, I don't know what this means, or I don't, why am I paying quarterly estimates, or, anything. I mean, you would be amazed at what we've heard clients say, like, well, I'm embarrassed. I don't want to ask my financial advisor this because I feel like I should know it. And in that sense, we can be a little bit of like, the friend and team member to say, hey, listen, that's okay. This is what it means. Let me walk you through it. They feel less intimidated to get the information for us because we're talking to them, several days throughout the week. Our relationship is that close. So I think that has really helped. And, paying attention to the day-to-day, I think is what we do for our clients, right? We allow them to travel and to focus on their families or their businesses, what have you. But what we love about this business is that everything that we learn and all of the practices that we put into place is pertinent to our own personal financial life. And we think that everybody could benefit from taking a closer look at their personal finances, just because, if you're not paying attention to what's going on in your life, you really can put yourself in a tricky position someday when you need information that you can't readily find access to.
Yeah, I think you get a lot of advice and good advice, right, about budgeting or making sure sort of what you're spending. But how do you make a budget and compare it to your real life if you don't know what your real life spending is? You've really got to keep an eye on it. And, we'd love to share some ideas that, we've gleaned over the years that might be helpful or pertinent, to anybody who sort of wants to take a deeper look or a more detailed look, I guess, into sort of their day-to-day personal spending. That might be helpful.
Yeah, I think we want to tell people is that you don't have to be doing this
professionally,
right? To do it for yourself. There are easy sort of tips and tricks that you can implement in your own life that I think can make a big impact. So we'll just run through a couple of these and, hop in if you have questions.
Lauren, did you have a question?
Well, I was just going to say too, like, it really is easier. So I don't have $30 million, so I shouldn't hire, Leila and KDB, but when someone has that much and is spending over $1 million a year, I mean, that's so many transactions that you really do need somebody. But for normal people like us, the amount of daily transactions that we have are actually manageable for someone at our stage for our income level. So, I mean, I think I'm really excited to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, I mean, our business serves a very niche clientele, but starting with your own personal finances is not overwhelming, right? You don't have the $1 million coming across your register, or and so these are just, you know, basics that you can start in and feel like you've got a little bit more control. So I would say the first thing we say to our clients is that auto pay is not your friend. And so what that means is there are bills that we will auto pay for our clients that we think that are okay to auto pay. You know, of course, your health insurance being one of them. You know, you don't want to miss that. And it doesn't really change every month. But what we mean by
car payment.
Yeah, car payment,
steady.
that kind of stuff. But what we mean by auto pay is not your friend is it's okay, right, to auto pay, let's say, your utilities. We don't typically do that for our clients, but you can do that for yourself. But it shouldn't mean that you're not looking at the bill. And that is what we see is like where so many errors come in. You know, for example, the amount of water leaks or leaks in your pool that we have seen because people have auto paid their water bill and they get lazy and they never check back in. That's a problem. So if you're going to auto pay your bill, make sure that you're still getting your bill either to your mailbox or in your email, and you're taking, you know, 1 day a month to open up those bills and review them. Because if you don't, that's where you can really run into trouble. So I think that's a good first easy step. And then the other thing that I think people don't know about, which is important to know, is that when you are logging into your bank to pay bills online, that works sometimes, okay? What I mean by that is if you're gonna log in to pay Alabama Power, you're gonna log in, you put in Alabama Power, it's what's called an EFT, electronic funds transfer, and that's because your bank has a relationship with Alabama Power. You pay today, they have to bill the funds tomorrow, and everything's great. But when you go in there to pay somebody that is not established as like an institution. So if I'm going in to pay, you know, Joe Painter, and I put in his name and his address, and my bank says that they're going to send him a check, what happens is that I write him a check for $100 and my bank debits it. And then they cut the check and they put it in the mail. And 5 days later, let's hope that Joe Painter gets that check. If he doesn't, it's really his word against mine because my bank has already debited those funds. So we would say if your bank doesn't have a relationship, like an EFT relationship with a vendor, and you'll know this because if it says the funds will be there the next day, you have it. If it's going to take 5 days, you don't have it. Go ahead and write your own check, Venmo them, something like that, just so it's not debited from your account, whether it gets to that person or not.
I think that's really smart. And it's something that we really learned kind of through this business. Another one is really just to keep a schedule of kind of the major payments that need to flow through. And I'm not talking about the monthly ones that you remember. I'm talking about the annual ones that you probably don't remember. So for instance, if your property taxes don't flow through your mortgage, so your mortgage isn't paying those for you, you need to remind yourself, maybe set a calendar alert that you got to pay your property taxes. You don't want to lien on your house. Same goes for, you know, your auto registrations. I mean, these are things that just, you don't think about them. They slip through the cracks, and then to sort of go back and fix it, it's just, it's not worth it. So, you know, good record keeping. I mean, we have a binder for each of our clients with everything in there. You know, you probably don't need that, but you might need an Excel file that just sort of has some pertinent dates, some pertinent payments, where it's paid from, how much it usually is, et cetera. So you can plan for it. We also encourage people, and we do this for our clients, but to make a personal balance sheet, not every month, that's not helpful, but maybe every year, maybe every couple of years, and don't let that be intimidating. Just think about what you have and what you owe. So you might have a house and a car and a checking account and an investment account. You might owe a mortgage, a car payment, and maybe you have a personal line of credit. It's as simple as that, but it really helps ground you, I think, in sort of, you know, the present, but also your future needs. And it can really help when you're having discussions with these outside advisors. So don't feel like that's something that you cannot do, because you can. It's really quite simple, and just even just pen and paper.
Yeah, start by jotting it down in a notepad. And and see, okay, what am I missing? Or, what do I need to be aware of? I think
Yeah.
that's really good, because I do think that people get intimidated
Right.
by that. Another thing that we see a lot is when people begin to look at their personal spending, they see this, or if they don't look at their personal spending, they miss this, are recurring subscriptions. This is genius on behalf of all of the people that have you sign up for subscriptions. So, right, a lot of us, I have a Netflix and a Sirius and a Spotify, and that's great. And I don't have children at the age yet that are getting all of their own accounts, but if you do have the teenagers and up, your subscriptions are probably even higher. One thing we always see is Apple subscriptions. I mean, when you start seeing, $2.99 come across your check register 3 or 4 times a month, you sort of become numb to it. That sounds crazy, like, oh, it's only $2.99. That adds up. So figure out what you're subscribing to and cancel what you don't need. And that goes for, subscription boxes you can get in the mail, what have you. But we really think that people forget about subscriptions, and it really adds up over time. So definitely take a look at those every year.
I have to interject there. I did this exercise a few months ago, and between myself and 2 teenage daughters, I got rid of $300.
That's amazing.
We do it for our clients. Every time we onboard them, we hand over this report called subscriptions, memberships, and dues. And you got to know that every time it's a shocker.
Well, and I want to say too, this is a really terrible story, but we had this marketing consultant, Emily and I laugh about this, and hopefully all of y'all are on a Wealth Edit subscription because you want to be here. But when we first started, this marketing consultant told us, she said, give everyone a free trial. They'll forget that they signed up, and then you'll have them as members. I said, we don't want members like that. Like, that is not what we want. Y'all, that was her marketing plan for us. And Emily, tell her what we did when we said no. She just left.
She left, and I've never seen her again.
So if you think people aren't like giving the advice of just like get people on a subscription and let it ride, I mean, that is crazy. So anyway, it's real marketing, not good.
Yeah, really, really true. And another thing we always tell our clients is to be aware of security. We've all heard it a million times. Change your passwords, don't have the same password for everything. We see it all the time in our clients. Usually their passwords are, their dog's name and like 1, 2, 3, or, the name of their first child. It's a pain, but if you sit down once and go through your passwords and change them and keep a record of them somewhere. I mean, most computers now will keep sort of a password file for you. But particularly when it comes to financial institutions, don't let everybody have the same password that you haven't changed since you were in high school. I mean, we see that all the time, and it doesn't take a ton of time, but really it's worth it to protect yourself. And the other thing we say about security is go ahead and check the box that says, double or multi-factor authentication. It's just an extra level of security that takes no time and can make a big difference in keeping you secure and your information secure.
And those are easy things to do. I mean, they really are. And like, it's, compared to identity theft, like just go do it today. Okay, just 2.
Yes, I'm sorry. One thing I did, do y'all suggest anything like LifeLock, or do y'all use that personally?
I mean, I think there's like LastPass. I think if you're doing it for your personal, I think that investment, whether it's $2.99 a month or whatever it is for one of those subscriptions, is totally worth it. So yes, absolutely. And you can share it across your family, which I think is helpful. So the last couple of things, and these are in no particular order. We just kind of had like a stream of conscious, list that we sort of put together. But, don't mix business and personal. And that sounds really simple, but you'd be surprised at, how we see our clients not getting reimbursed for business expenses just because they've mixed them up and they don't know what's what anymore. So, if you've got expenses from work, just put them on a separate credit card. It's a really clean way to just separate them. And then every month that you need to be reimbursed that amount that's on your statement. We also suggest that, in our line of work, you don't mix business and personal in the sense that you let somebody at work handle your bill pay for you, or hand over this sort of information to them. It just sometimes ends poorly. You just don't want to kind of mix those two roles and give someone more information than they probably need. In the job that they're doing for you, that they're being paid for, they probably don't want to do it anyway. Do your personal side. And then lastly, you'd be shocked at how much, if you get charged fees or interest or, even subscriptions that you didn't know you had that have been going on for months, you'd be shocked at what you can get done if you just call your bank and say, hey, can you please reimburse this for me? They're usually willing to work with you, especially if it's sort of a first time thing. And, again, if that is a subscription that's been going on for 12 months and they end up reimbursing you, that could be $100 back in your pocket. It's worth the time just to sort of make the call and just know that most people don't make that call. And so they actually really are willing to work with you.
Right. I think that to me was such an eye opener when I started this, because people feel almost backed into a corner. Let's say you've missed a credit card payment and you're always so good at making those on time, and you're late doing it, and you get this fee and interest. Call your credit card company. I would be shocked if they did not refund you the interest and the late fee. Really, they will work with you, because most people don't call. Don't be intimidated to stand up for your money. You've got to be your own advocate for your personal finances. And we always just remind ourselves, let's ask for the money back. What's the worst that they can say?
That's right.
No. But more often than not, they won't. They'll refund you, or at least work with you on whatever the fee is. So really, that's sort of the main top of the list. But our suggestion would be, don't feel overwhelmed to feel like you need to go home and do these top 10 and all of them today. Start with 1 or 2 things that you think you can tackle and stick with, because sticking with it over time is what will ultimately make the difference for you. If you do everything tomorrow and then feel overwhelmed, like, oh, I don't have a schedule for that and I can keep up with this, you're never going to follow through with it. So start with 1 or 2 things, make those a habit. And then, over time, add a couple more things that can put you more in control of your finances.
I think that's a great thing. And too, it's funny, like when I did the whole subscription review and took the time to figure out my children and everything, once you get something like that and you have that immediate gratification of cancel. Then I was like, well, I want to dig in over here. And I started digging in. So it's almost like it's like this snowball effect, because once you get comfortable with that and you see the fruits of your efforts, then it becomes a little bit easier to do that next step and then the next step. And then when you really do have a handle on your spending, even though it seems overwhelming and hard on this side of it, when you get to the other side, the amount of peace and just clarity of where you are is worth it. It really is.
It's really empowering.
Yeah, it really is. And a lot of this is in our financial minimalism course. And I swear, if you just do that course, we offer it several times a year, you'll get your Wealth Edit membership back just through doing that course. It's this tiny things that you can start to do that will really change your life and change your financial life. And I love how you said you have to be an advocate for your personal finances, because you really do.
Yeah.
You're the only one. That's what I tell attorneys. If there's any attorneys on the call, they come in and they talk to us about financial planning. I said, you are your wealth event. That's it. It's like over your lifetime, you are going to accumulate enough wealth to live into retirement. And so anyway, it's a similar concept with being responsible with your personal finances. So
right.
Anyway, well, thank you so much for coming on. I was going to say, we always ask people this when they come on. We're so grateful. Why did you say yes to coming on the Wealth Edit?
Do you want to take this one?
Sure. One, we are here because we adore you, Lauren, and
Emily.
And we think that your advocacy for women and empowering women to be in control of their finances is key. We think that every person, and particularly women, really need to stand up for themselves and not feel like they can't ask important questions that pertain to their future and their wealth. You know, if you don't pay attention, as I said earlier, to what's going on in your day to day, you know, who knows what can happen. And we said yes because we want to spread the word that you don't need to have, you know, 30 million or 300 million to hire us. You can take control in your own life. And I think that everybody really needs to know that. You know, it's okay to ask questions. And you know, I think if we help one person feel like they can get control of their spending, it'll be a bonus.
Be worth it. Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Well, thank you, ladies. We
Thank
enjoyed
you
it.
all.
We have to have y'all back for round 2 for another
I
topic.
know, that's what I was thinking.
We love it.
All right. Thank y'all. Have a great day.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.